This is Rudkowski of WeAreChange.org reporting for you here in New York City. I am joined by Benjamin Hiller, an American journalist, war correspondent who covered the war in Syria and also the conflict in Ukraine. Now, Benjamin, you have brought this amazing institution here. You even brought a car bomb here to New York City, doing an amazing expose about what happened in Syria, what happened in Ukraine. Benjamin, can you tell us what made you bring this exhibition here?
Yeah, there were photographers who did all the work already, and they came in the first place to me and asked me if I would be able to do such an exhibition and organize all the thing. Yeah. So that was the starting of all of it.
Now, you have really amazing exhibitions. If we could just go over here, you have this amazing photo that was taken here in Syria where people were tortured at. Now, obviously, we get different stories that are very conflicting in the U.S. about what's happening over in Syria, but you being there, can you tell us about some of your experiences, what you saw, and things that conflict with maybe what we're being told?
Yeah, of course, Syria is a very complicated conflict and war nowadays, and additionally, you have now the fracturing of all of Syria. I myself covered Syria. I started in 2012 with the Kurds in Syria, and after that I went to Deir ez-Zor in the southeast of Syria and covered also the Arabic areas there, and especially Al-Jabha al-Nusra and the uprising of the Islamists. And in the beginning, many reports were like the Free Syrian Army, they are really the good guys, and everybody is a hero and freedom fighter, and they're normal people just taking up arms. But that was conflicting with the reality. When I was in February, March in 2013 there, we had this one situation where one of the fighters got killed, and then as a revenge they just jumped into people's houses, they broke open the doors and they searched for weapons, and when they had found somebody with a weapon, which is quite common in Arabic countries, they claimed he's a Shabiha, a so-called Syrian militant, regime militant. And so they arrested like 10 guys from 20 to up to almost 70, brought them back to our camp where they stayed, and started torturing them, started to getting forced confessions out of them, and asked us to film these forced confessions to show the world how the Syrian regime would work.
Wow, this is insane. And here you have a photo of an old theater in Syria that was used as a place where people were tortured. You even brought in the place. What is that thing called? And can you explain this photo here in front of us?
Yeah, that photo in front of us, it shows that was like a hotel, and that was the room where the concerts were done, where the dining was done, and official events in the hotel. And it was occupied by Syrian opposition fighters, Free Syrian Army guys, and more radical Islamists. And when they captured mostly Syrian soldiers, but also civilians, they brought them in this room, and they started torturing them in there. And they used this, how do you call it in English? I forgot it.
Yeah, this pole here, yeah. This little circus kind of
exactly.
trick thing.
Yeah, it was used there for events, like for the circus kind of stuff, and they really hanged people down there. There are like photos and videos on YouTube where you can see this stuff, because they publish, of course, that stuff. And that was photo was taken from a photographer who was embedded with the Syrian army after it was retaken, and then he researched more about it and found all the background story out.
The exhibition really is amazing. With every photo, there's an artifact here, and I think that one of the most stunning artifacts is the car bomb here that you have here. Can you tell us the story about this car bomb?
Yeah, so it's not in that sense a car bomb, but yeah, there were two cars with suicide bombers. Like, there were two drivers, they had suicide vests on them, and the car was filled with explosives. And they targeted inside Damascus the Russian embassy and the Syrian interim ministry. But they couldn't get close enough because of the security around these buildings. So the first driver got like panicked and triggered the bomb of his car. And then the second car got hit off the shrapnel and the driver got killed. And because they were not close enough at the buildings, they blew themselves up in the middle of a very crowded place, and 83 civilians got killed and 250 people wounded.
Holy cow, that's just an insane story. I think another very important aspect of this exposition is showing both sides of the story, because I remember we talked before, and we talked about how a lot of the mainstream media, whether it's foreign media or American media, they always have their own side of the story. They always have one particular view, but the truth is really found in the gray.
Exactly.
Can you tell us more about some of the reporting and some of the truths that you found?
Yeah, the main thing, the main aim, as I told, I covered 2012 and 13, the opposition side. And the aim of this exhibition is also to show the other side of the conflict. How's life under Bashar al-Assad rule? How's the situation in Damascus? How's the fighting of the Syrian army? Because if you want to get the whole picture, you need to see all sides of a conflict. In the end, the civilians in the middle who are caught, they are always suffering, and that's also one of the aims we really point out in this exhibition. And nowadays you have like media reporting almost like as it was in a Cold War, really like black and white. He's the evil, he's the good. And of course it's not like that. War zones are complicated. There are many, many factions. The countries around are involved in all these wars. So you don't have this black and white, you have gray. And that is the aim, to give the viewers also the other side of the picture, and then they can get a whole picture of it.
Yes, and I think this photo also is very telling. It's a photo that that it states here that has a very strong chemical smell, where the Assad regime claims that the rebels were building chemical weapons, the chemical weapons last year that were uncovered by the UN and made Syria give up their chemical weapons. But obviously Simon Hirsch and other independent investigators said that the chemical weapons came from the rebels, not from Assad. And this photo kind of, makes people understand that. Can you give us a story of this photo and that side of the story?
Yeah, I myself still think that the main attack was done by the Syrian regime, not probably ordered by Bashar al-Assad, but like by a panic-in middle officer or high officer, because he had also the stock, and there were specifics from that. But it is quite clear that all sides had access to that, because very early military bases were overrun, where some stockpiles of chemical weapons were. And so some months before the main attack happened, and the main chemical attack, these Syrian soldiers said that it was used specifically at this place against them. And the journalist was there like 3-4 days later, and he found the smell when his throat was still soaring. So that of kind proves the story of the soldiers. It's of course very hard in such circumstances to prove anything on all sides, because it's a war. Mostly you come weeks later to the place where something happened, and especially with chemical weapons and all that stuff, they are quite short duration cycles until you almost can't find any proof anymore.
Yeah, it's very hard to vet these stories because there's so many different conflicting sides, so many different conflicting stories. I think one of the compelling ones you told me about was about Turkey. They had a situation where some of the Turkey hostages were released recently, but there's another story behind that, which would you mind explaining to us?
Yeah, you had this hostage situation where the Islamic State took hostages in Mosul. And there were a lot of question marks about it, because like from the 49 hostages which were still in the hand of the Islamic State, almost half of them were special forces, Turkish special forces, who should protect the diplomats. And they didn't even fight, so that was the first question. Why did that happen in the first place? And then suddenly now, last week or a few days ago, all the hostages got released, and Turkey said, yeah, they claimed in the first place that they had a special team there who got them out. Later they said, no, they were brought to the Turkish border and given over by the Islamic State. So they had contradicting own claims on the whole thing. And it was interesting, why suddenly does the Islamic State release Turkish hostages, even if Turkey probably joins the coalition against the Islamic State? And a few days later, videos emerged from Kobani. In Arabic, it's called Ain al-Arab. It's in the north of Syria, where Kurds live, and they are encircled by the Islamic State currently from 3 sides. And the border areas around that city are under control of the Islamic State. And now videos emerged where a train comes in from the Turkish border area up to Syria. And these tracks are only controlled by the Turkish army. And on that train, you have several tanks, older tanks from the Turkish army, and crates with weapons. Yeah. And they were directly delivered from the Turkish side to the Syrian side to the Islamic State. And so then, of course, the question comes up, was that a deal, that they release the hostages, and for that they get weapons to fight further against the Kurds? Because especially Turkey has, of course, the worries if after North Iraq with an autonomy region of the Kurds, if in Syria they can carve out an autonomy region, that the Turkish Kurds will also try to get their own rights.
Wow. Amazing story. I mean, it's just a beautiful exhibit here that you have here with photos from the inside. You risked your life to tell the story of what happened here, and it's really, really amazing. Benjamin Hiller, anything else you would like to say, and where can people find out more about this exhibit? It's here in New York City. If you live there, definitely check it out. The link will be in the description below. But anything else you want to say, and can you tell us more about how people can find this exhibit?
Exactly. So what I want to point out, we have also the big poster. It's not about taking a side in this conflict or taking a political stance. It is about to show all sides of the conflict so you can understand the conflict, because sometimes people didn't get that point really. And yeah, we had amazing feedback already. We had in 5 days almost more than 700 people here. Some Israeli visitors who got the point of the whole exhibition. We had from Europe a lot of people and a lot of Americans. And so, yeah, please check it out, and you will find it in Chelsea in the Art Beam venue. That's 540 West and 21st Street. It's near the 10th Avenue.
It's a free exhibit. Definitely check it out. It's definitely eye-opening. It's definitely humbling. And I thank you, Benjamin, for risking your life to tell the truth, the great truth that is so muddied right now in this current political economic situation that's happening in Syria. I really thank you so much for the amazing work. The link to the exhibit and to Benjamin's website will be in the description below. Thank you again so much for watching.